just introducing yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. My name's Samuel Roukin. I was at Merchant Taylors until 1998. That was when I left. And I left school and I went to Hull University to do a degree in drama. And then from there, I went to Bristol Old Vic Theatre School and did the 2-year program there. And then I was fortunate enough to be signed by a really great agent before I'd left drama school. And then I started doing theatre in England over the next kind of 4-year period. And I began, with doing some like touring stuff, and then quickly moved into, I was living in London at that point, and I started working. I did Hamlet at the Old Vic in London, and then after that I went to the National Theatre for a year, and then I went to the Royal Shakespeare Company, where I led a production of Great Expectations for 6 months. And from there, I did a little bit more theatre, and then I started doing a bit of TV in England. And then I got my first movie, which was a Mike Leigh film called Happy Go Lucky, which ended up being Oscar nominated, and kind of launched me into the movie world of my career. Like in that, from then I did a lot of, theatre started taking a bit of a back burner, and I started just doing kind of film after film. I was in Harry Potter, the last 2 Harry Potters, and then I did a bunch of other things. And then in and then it was just kind of like going from TV job to film job. And then I eventually went back to the National Theatre for like another 6-month stint on a play called The Kitchen, which was just before, that was in 2011. And then that was when I left England and moved to New York. And then I was in New York for about 6 months before I booked my first job, which was a play on Broadway, which was kind of a bit of a golden entry into working into America. And then after that, about, shortly after that I finished, I booked a TV show in America called Turn Washington Spies, about the Revolution. And that kind of got me on the map in the business in a kind of big way here. And we did 4 seasons of that show. And then from there, I was kind of bouncing around other TV shows. And then after that was finished, I moved to Los Angeles for about 5 years. And then so during that time, I was just kind of doing all sorts of stuff, movies, TV, and then and also sort of in the New York part of my life, I started doing audiobook narration. So then that kind of has been like a constant back burner throughout the whole time as well, like fitting in audiobooks between other jobs. And then the pandemic happened, which was when we were last speaking. And then that kind of shut our whole industry down. But prior to that, I'd been doing a little bit of producing with my production company, with a friend that I started a company with, and wound up doing producing a couple of documentaries about the esports world, which was kind of fell in my lap a little bit. So that was a good kind of pandemic job, because we were hiring crews to film all over the world, but nobody was traveling anywhere. And it was kind of, we figured out a way to do it. And then also some way through, like towards the end of the pandemic, I went back to LA to film a movie called All Souls, which is still being distributed. It's not out yet. And then a little bit after that, I booked Ghost on Call of Duty, which basically took over the whole of last year. And that's obviously turned into a bit of a runaway train. So that's really exciting. And then, and so on we go. And then here we are now. And then, you know, I've got a few things lined up for this year that I can't talk about yet. But at the end of the year, I'm going to be doing my first play in 8 years, which is really kind of crazy for me to even say that it's been 8 years since I've done a play, given that's where I started. But I'm super excited because I'm going to be doing a play at Steppenwolf, which is one of the most heralded theaters in the world. And it's in Chicago. It's kind of hallowed ground for actors. And so I'm going to be doing a Pinter play in the summer there. And that kind of brings us up to date. And here we are. Questions?
Well, that sounds like one of my questions was going to be whether you wanted to go back to theatre at any point, or, you know, that was that a kind of conscious choice. So that's really interesting that that's obviously on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the theatre part has been, you know, it's my first. It's where I cut my teeth, you know, and it's, you know, I'm a classically trained actor, so that, you know, what that means is you are trained to do the most technical kinds of writing and stage work that you'll do, which equips you to do everything else. And so it's kind of in my bones. I haven't done it for so long because it didn't make sense logistically. When I was living in LA, when I was in New York, I was always auditioning for plays. It just so happened that I booked a TV show immediately after my first play, which meant that I was now out of New York for 4 years. And then by the end of that, we decided to move to LA, which doesn't really have a notable producing theater scene. So LA is where the film and TV industry is, and the gaming industry, and a lot of tech stuff, but it's not known for theater, even though there are certain things that pop up. And so I would get asked to go back to Broadway, but for me to go back to Broadway when I had a family in LA, that logistically became very complicated. And then when it becomes logistically complicated, it ends up becoming expensive. And so there wasn't anything that kind of made sense. But I've missed it because the culture of doing theater is so nice. And I think it's very good for you, just as an actor to have, and as an artist, to have that immediate, real, like live experience. You're experiencing something very different to what you're doing when you're on a film set. I think that's really healthy. I think it's really exciting. And I missed it. So I've been looking for the right opportunity, and on my bucket list in my entire life was to do a play at Steppenwolf. And I didn't know whether it was possible because being a British-born actor, you know, it's a very American company. So I've been knocking on the door for a while, and it just things lined up, and it's happening now. So that's really exciting. It's the perfect way for me to come back and do a play. Like, I couldn't wish for a better re-entry. And hopefully it'll lead to a lot more. Like, my ideal is, like, you know, once a year I do, you know, spend a couple of months doing a play.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's like just kind of good. It's, if nothing else, it's a great workout, you know, because it's a different requirement stamina wise and everything else. So yeah, I missed it. So
yeah. No, that's really exciting. That sounds great. And as you say, perfect opportunity, good location, good timing. I'll just remind everyone to please get any questions that you have in the chat, and I will pick them up as you go through. So do just let us know. I can guess what some of them will be. And here's one. What was it like working on the set of Harry Potter? That's from Liv.
Ridiculous. It's like, what I say to people is like, if you can't have fun running around a forest with a wand and getting paid for it, you're in the wrong business. It was really fun. It was long. Like it took a year to make. And I can't even remember how many days I worked on it, but it was a lot for what ended up being about 5 to 10 minutes worth of screen time collectively in the two films. And that's kind of most actors' experience on that job, because the film really centers around, you know, five characters, you know, and then there's probably another 5 characters that are like next up the food chain. And then everyone else is kind of like filling the story out for a movie or two or whatever. But it was a lot of fun. Like, you know, everyone was really happy to be on it. It was a massive operation. You know, all of those sets were like handcrafted and real. Like there was a lot of CG stuff on it, computer generated stuff on it, but that was more like landscape stuff. Like all of the like Great Hall and I'm sure some people at this point have been to the museum or whatever, have been to the studios to see it, but like, you know, it's like, it's all there. So it was kind of, the scale of it was incredible. I have not, to this day, I've not worked on a set with more people employed on it. Like, I mean, it was absurd at one point that I didn't even know, I couldn't work out what some people were being hired to do. I was happy they had a job, but I was like, I don't know what you're doing. You seem to just be knocking around all day, you know? And it was like that, you know, hundreds of trailers, and it was wild. Yeah.
It must have been quite an experience to kind of see something of that scale and just, yeah.
Yeah, and the funny thing was, because of, I knew it was going to be like that. And when I joined it, it was already like most of the way through, right? They'd already done 5 of the 7 movies. And I very much expected, what was nice about it, I expected it to be very much kind of stand here, say your lines, move there, like for it to be quite didactic in that way, quite prescriptive. It turned out to be the opposite of that, actually. And when we, despite all of the machine of it, when we got on set, there was no plan that was set in stone, and we were actually able to play. Which is why I think those films are so good and are so like, they grab you. And apart from the story's amazing, obviously, right? It's like great writing, but it was also like, it was a very collaborative experience on set. It's not always like that. But this far down the road, I can say like the very best things and really the kind of the biggest successes, even if they have like the most riding on them because of how much money is being spent, they feel like that in the making of it. And that was what it was like. So it was really fun, you know, and I got to work with, you know, some of the greatest respected actors in our business. So it was good.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. So Luca says, what made you decide that acting was the career that you wanted to pursue?
Well, I was doing it for fun until about the age of 14, when I found out that it was a job. I didn't know it was a job. I wasn't doing it because I thought it'd be a cool job. I was doing it because I loved it. And then when I found out you could do it as a job, then I really didn't want to do anything else. I thought, well, why would you want to, you know, the kind of person I was, why would you want to do anything else? This is ridiculous, you know? And then I had a wobble confidence-wise, somewhere around the age of about 16, 17. And I kind of told myself that I wasn't ready to do it, I think. And so I decided to do like what felt like something a little safer, which was go to university first, which I still think probably was the right move. Like what I learned at Hull, which was a very kind of practical, improvisational, and kind of, like we did everything. Like I did stage management, I did stage design, I did sound design, writing. I did so many things that gave me a respect for every department, and extra skills too, and lots of time to practice and play, and without any kind of fear of what anybody thought. That by the time I went to drama school, I'd also got all my partying, like college partying, out the way, so that when I got to drama school, I was really ready to like knuckle down and focus. So that helped too. Like I was super hungry and focused when I went to drama school, which is when it really mattered. But I didn't, I guess the answer to that question, that's like, how did I know? I started to find out that I was really good at it. And it was something that really sat, like it, like people were responding to what I was doing. And that was really satisfying. And I don't know why I don't think I was brought up especially with that like spelled out, but I figured out that if I'm feeling satisfied and happy, then that's a feeling I kind of want for the rest of my life. So seems like this is how I'm going to have the happiest time. There was a certain point where it became, it was just the thing that was happening, and it wasn't really, you know, it's not the kind of thing you can try, in my opinion. You're all in. And so there was a point where I guess like when I went to university and started doing that, and I was suddenly out of the school system and out of my parents' purview, and just I was kind of doing my own thing and having like the time of my life. And then it was then that I really kind of like molded in my head, like, oh, I think this is something I really want to find out if I can do. And then it's like, you know, and then it's like the moments of validation, right? So then you're like, well, is this a good idea? And then when I got into drama school, I got into one of the toughest programs to get a place on, and like, you know, very, very famous school, and you know, they accepted. Usually it was 12, and I think in our case, our year, they took 14 people out of 2,000 people that auditioned. So when that happens, you go, okay, well then maybe I was right. And then that gives you a new level of confidence. But then the train's left the station, you know, and you're going. So that was kind of how it was. But I think going back, the moment, also like Dr. Gill, who, you know, who is no longer the drama or head of English or whatever, but like he was my teacher in Merchant Tailors. He was integral to my confidence, because he would say to me, I would have these private conversations with him in like a classroom at lunchtime, and it's like I'd be like, Doc, I don't know, like I don't know if I can do this, you know, like I got like my parents saying one thing and headmasters saying another thing and my mind saying one thing, and he was like, just keep doing it, you know, you're really good, you can do it. But he also gave me confidence academically too. Like he would say, like, you know, you're more academic than you think you are, and that doesn't mean that you're not this other thing too, you know. So I think I had a really great, I had a great support system, and not everybody does. So I had a great support system, in like teachers and parents were supportive to a point, you know, and like, you know, and then I just followed the path and stayed the course. So, but I think I knew once I found out you could do it as a job, the bug was in me then, you know.
Yeah, had to give it a go, had to see what happened, and yeah, here you are. Brilliant. Where did we get to? Lily would like to know how you go about getting an agent.
Yeah, it's hard, you know, like there's a system in the UK which is good. If you go to a drama school, like a renowned drama school, of which there's more than like 2. There's like, you know, there's probably 10 drama schools that you could go to in England. And I don't know, I'm not in the system there now. Like I haven't been in England for any kind of meaningful amount of time for the last decade. But I know that there is still like a very robust drama school system. If you go to a drama school, whether you go undergrad or postgrad, there's a showcase that happens where you go to London and all the agents and casting directors in the business are invited. Doesn't mean they'll all come, but some will. And then you'll get to do, you know, the school puts together a show, you know, that and so from that, agents will pick talent and sign them. But if you go to one of the good ones, and like just off the top of my head, like if you went to RADA, Bristol Old Vic, Lambda, Guildhall, Central, probably the Welsh College of Music and Drama as well, and I'm probably missing some, like some others that I'm not thinking of. But that kind of thing, agents will send their assistants to go and see the productions that are happening at the schools as well. So this is how I got signed. I had a few options. For me, the agent I signed with came to see one of our final year shows, which I was playing the lead in, she met me afterwards, and then that started that process. But prior to that, the school had held auditions. From the minute we entered the school. So you just auditioned to get into drama school. They're like, hi, next week you're auditioning again. Right? And they would make us audition every single week at the school. So we're just in the habit of auditioning. And in your final year, those auditions are with casting directors and agents. That are friends of the school, and they visit, and people got. So I ended up having, you know, luckily I had some choices out of those things, you know. But that's one way. That's the system, but it's not the only way. And but I can't speak to that because it wasn't my experience. But there are many, many stories of people getting signed by an agent because of a number of things. Like if you decide to make a go of it and you go to London and you start, and somehow you find yourself in something cool, like in a cool production that people are talking about or whatever, then you can do the work yourself and invite people to see it. Then I'm talking about theatre. To be honest, like, we're in a whole new world. We touched on this last time we spoke. We're in a whole new world of content and access and communication that just didn't exist when I came out. So I don't know what you're supposed to do now, but I would like, if you're serious, if the bug has got you and you think this is for you, the most straightforward way is to get into a drama school and do that and let them help you navigate the next step. But that's not a guarantee of it. So of 14 people, let's say there were 2-year groups that graduated at the same time from my drama school, from Bristol Old Vic. 3 years, the 3-year course and the 2-year course, right? Of those 30, at the day of leaving drama school, I would say less than half had an agent. And that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then sometime after that, I would say probably half, maybe a little over half had an agent, and the rest were figuring it out. And that probably, you know, real talk, probably that represents about who is still in the business today.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean they're not happy. But it does mean, like, it is a real thing. Like, you do need help. It takes a village.
Yeah, definitely. Well, kind of a link to a bit of a follow-on question from Camilla, who wants a straightforward question. What pays better, TV, film, or theatre?
Bottom of the list is theatre. And the answer's changed. It used to be movies, right? I mean, if you're top lining a movie and you are the reason that people will come and pay to see that movie, there's a good chance you'll earn more doing that than you would if you were doing a TV show. But the accumulation of episodic fees in TV means that you are more likely to earn more money doing TV now than anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Because,
More regular
you,
income as well.
Yeah, so you negotiate an episodic fee for each episode produced. And let's say you do, you know, for argument's sake, 10 episodes a season, and you end up doing that for a full 6 seasons, you know, that's 60 episodes of TV. You know, that's good money. So you can do, but if you know, oh, are you still there? I think something weird happened with Microsoft on my computer. So yeah, and then so that can be really good. And then, but then, you know, depending on what the movie is, and it all depends on the budget of the movie. Whereas TV is a bit more of a sure bet because they know what they're. It's not such a high risk business, TV. Although with, you know, but yeah, so I would say TV probably, then film, then theatre.
Yeah, that makes sense. As you say, there's been a huge shift kind of culturally, hasn't there, towards TV is sort of blockbuster fare in the last few years. So
yeah, and then of course that 6-year deal, which you'll sign anyway, right? You'll sign on for a 6-year deal when you do any TV show. But most shows don't make it, right? Most shows don't do 6 seasons. Some don't even make it past 1, you know, so you don't know. It's really a roll of the dice every time. You know, I think if you get 3 seasons out of a show, that's like you've done well, and anything after that's gravy, you know. But it's yeah, it's all changed, you know, like the streaming world. And the thing now is that because there's so much content, right? There's like, we all know, like every week someone will say, have you seen this? And you're like, I've never heard of it in my life, right? And they're like, everybody's talking about it. I was like, well, I'm not, I don't know. Like, and then you're like, you're going to, so then like, that's the way it works, right? There's so much around that so much gets missed. So even if something's really good, if it just for some reason hasn't hit the zeitgeist, it's just not going to fly. So, you know, you don't know what's going to happen every time.
Yeah, no, it is. It's tricky. We've got Krishna who wants to know what qualifications are best to pursue a career in acting. So probably back to the drama school, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't need qualifications. There's no, you know, like you've got to think of it like, you know, working backwards, right? So if you're an agent and you are looking for young talent that you can make money off, you know, what do you want them to be visible? Like you've got to find a way to see them, and you want them to like completely blow you away. So if you work backwards from like, in terms of like, wow, you know, the presence, the charisma, you know, I believe that, then I don't even know who they are because I'm believing the person they are assuming to be in this scene or whatever right now, right? Working backwards from that, like how do you get to that place is really the question you need to ask. This isn't a merit, like the world of performance and storytelling is not a meritocracy. It's not fair. It's not based on who's the best and who's the best believed. It's a lot to do with access and opportunity and taking those opportunities when they present themselves. So the question is, how can you be consistently ready for any opportunity that comes your way? That's a long way down the road from when you're at school deciding what you're going to do next, right? But there is a path that gets you to that point. And I've already said what it is, which is at some point, if you can, if it's possible, find your way to one of the best drama school you can get into, and just work on your craft tirelessly. That's it. And then you see what happens, and then you have to let it go and see what happens. But I would say like the biggest qualification is like hard work and curiosity. Like that's probably it. But like, you know, because no one really cares. Once you're out there, like once you're in an audition, no one cares where you've been and what you've done. Maybe right at the beginning, if you just came out of RADA, or you just came out of Guildhall or Bristol, then you've got a little bit of cachet, you know, you've got a little bit of class. But after a bit, no one cares. Like you're just as good as the day you're in, you know. But I think, you know, like, here's what I will say, because we're talking about the same thing, which is like, what do I do if I want to be an actor? And my advice, which I said to you last time, is start thinking of yourself as an artist, not an actor, as soon as possible. What that means in real terms is, what are the other things creatively that I'm really good at, or could be really good at, right? Because the truth of the matter is, if you look at all of the artists in their, let's say, early 30s, who have like blown up in recent times, you know, like the name's escaping me, but is it Michaela Cole, or like in Fleabag, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who I know a little bit, like, you know, those kinds of, like, they were doing acting jobs, they were doing fine, but they're also writers, right? And I know loads of actors who are also amazing artists or musicians or whatever else. Like, you know, the sooner you can start working the other talents that you unquestionably will have, if you are good enough to pursue an acting career, then you're good enough, you're probably really good at some other things. The more you can fill out your toolbox with those other things, the more you'll be able to sustain yourself in the times when you're not being hired as an actor, which is like, it's not something you plan, like you're like trying to achieve. You're not trying to achieve a life of doing other things, but your ability to pursue a career in acting will 100% rely upon your resilience and your tenacity and your ability to pivot and do other things that are still kind of somewhat connected to being an actor or an artist, right? So that when those opportunities come again, you're ready again, but you're still alive. You know, you're not depressed, you're not sad about you weren't being hired, and all of those things matter. And you're still confident and you still believe in yourself. So again, like, a lot of this is to do with privilege. If you are able to, you know, get yourself educated and, you know, be intellectually and academically firing and like primed, and you are able to also kind of really home in on the craft and maybe then pursue that as well. I really liked my journey of doing 3 years at university. I did a degree in drama. I didn't do a degree in physics or something. Like, but like it just created that extra focus when I decided to really pull the trigger on it. that I think gave me an edge, honestly, because I was just like, I was so certain of what I was doing that I was just super hungry for it. So I think everybody's journey is different, but I think the more you can prepare yourself for the road ahead, the better.
Yeah, that's good advice. Definitely be have different other things going on as well, and kind of be ready for that.
Yeah. But notice I didn't say the word fallback.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, that's very important that's clear. If anyone says you need something to fall back on, I can debate that all day as to how that's a terrible idea for an artist. It's not about falling back. It's about holistically thinking of yourself as something more than one thing, which is not how I was when I came into the business. That's not how it was. You were one thing, and it's one of the reasons why I really loved being in America, because in America, like, they were just it's like that more in England now too, but at the time, like, in America has typically been more open to you being more things than one thing, right? There's just like, whatever it takes to get your piece of the American dream is cool with us, right? So it's just a bit more of an open playing field. So anyway, I'm not talking about having something to fall back on. I'm talking about, coming at your life as an artist with more than one tool.
Sounds like good life advice, never mind good artist advice. Again, kind of linked, but any particular advice for anyone wanting to become a young actor, as in work before leaving school? So anyone wanting to kind of get to work early?
Wanting to do acting jobs whilst you're in school?
Yes.
Not my favorite path, if I'm honest. Like, I don't really see what the rush is, I don't know how beneficial it is. I think patience is one of the human's greatest superpowers, and I do think, like, it particularly applies to artists. Like, you don't need me to tell you the stories of child actors and what that can become, because they're so publicly well known. But, like, I think, like, my advice is do as much as you can for fun, whilst like, as soon as you start getting paid for it, there's pressure and there's judgment. And I think the longer you can go without experiencing that, the happier you'll be. And I think, and the better you'll become, because you'll have had time to do it without any judgment being part of it, right? So my advice is maybe press pause on that and do it, and just double up the amount that you're doing for fun. Say yes to 2 things, not 1 thing. Go to 2 rehearsals a week, or 3. Do 2 shows in the summer, not 1. That would be my preferred job. I get it, like, it's exciting to be like, oh, so-and-so's on whatever, like, they're doing this TV show in Liverpool or what, like, yeah, it's cool, but I'm not sure it makes you a better actor.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And again, is wise advice. And I think we'll have to make it a last question, because we've got maybe 5 minutes or so left. It's a Call of Duty question. Yeah. I'm going to reframe it slightly. So I would like to know how it's different, being a kind of voice actor in a game. Is it different to acting in a show or something like that? And the girls want to know, and it's probably a no, I think, can you do the ghost voice? And you can say no.
What's happening to this video afterwards?
Well, that's again, that's up to you. So we can edit that bit out. We can not share it. We can do whatever because we know that you can't.
Okay, no problem. So we'll come to that in a minute.
You can think about it.
Yeah, the difference is really just equipment. So the like it is a full performance medium now. So you're not just in a booth doing the voiceover and they put the animation. Like you have a helmet and there's a camera in front of your face recording every movement of your face. And the whole kind of like lycra suits that you've seen that everybody wearing, that's real. And they have like all the dots on them, which are tracking every movement of your body. And then apart from all of that, it shoots exactly like a movie would. So you're on like what actually the set looks more like a rehearsal room for a play. That might not mean anything to anybody, but things represent the things that they are. So like a Jeep will be, like a platform with like a like a mic stand that swings open with a tennis ball on it as the door, right? But all of those things have markers on that the cameras record. So when they put it into the machine, the engine of the game, like everything becomes the thing that it's supposed to be. But that's kind of so you have to use a bit more imagination. It's a bit more like doing a play. But in terms of the acting of it, it's just like you're standing in front of something. The only thing you have to make sure your cameras don't hit each other because you've got these things kind of right in front of your face. So that's a bit weird. So I think if you have to do something like really close up, like there's a bit more imagination because you can only be about 2 feet apart as the closest. Yeah. But
you're fully scripted and directed and as you would be.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's the directors running around with a handheld camera too. So they're filming it. But there's like 200 cameras in there. And they're like, everything's, and then you can see it immediately afterwards. You see the playback and there's like a kind of like lo-fi version of the game already in existence so you kind of see your character walking around, and it's not really animated, but they do all that later. But you can kind of basically get the idea of what you're doing. Yeah.
Must be quite quite strange in a way, kind of seeing it.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's quite cool. Like as it goes on, like the more advanced the game gets, like it's really exciting to see it go from that to it looking like a movie, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. You won't know because you won't have seen it, but your character certainly has a billboard right on the way into Liverpool on the Strand.
Oh yeah,
which is always quite entertaining.
It's gone everywhere.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And very quick last one, actually from the one of the boys. Any super quick tips for auditions?
Tips for auditions: know your lines, like know your lines, like back to front. Drill them till you can't forget them. Then you're free to play and listen and be present with whoever's doing the scene with you or in the room, and you can be relaxed and I think breath is so important, like breathing, taking some deep breaths before you do an audition is good. And I think it's preparation, really, like just the more you know what you're doing, the more confident you are, the more you're not like trying to remember lines, the better, the more your eyes can be up and not in a script, right? That's another reason why you would and I think particularly with auditions, when you get into the real job part of auditioning for jobs, part of it is they want you to be fun to work with. So the more, if you're really stressed and nervous and tense, and that also tells people how you're going to be to work with, and they might go, well, that might not be so fun to be around for however long or whatever. So the more yourself and the more relaxed you can be, the better. So, you know, thinking about how you get to that place. One thing is being really prepared, so you're not worried about the stuff you're doing, right? And being really confident in your ability to do the part. That's really important. And for me personally, like meditation is a big part of my life, and I wish every human being would do it, because everyone would be like massively happier and calmer. And it's particularly useful for high pressure situations like auditions, to be settled in your system, and your system to not be like super activated, which doesn't mean de-energized, right? Like people think like, oh, if you're meditated, you're super like quiet, and that's not. It's the opposite. It's like, it means you're rested and your mind is clear, so you can be very dynamic actually. So I encourage everybody to, like, you know, to have a little dabble in meditation and see where it can take you, because it's really that breath work is just that kind of calmness of the mind is, I think, is like a crucial skill for actors.
Well, it's another one that's very good life advice, I'd suggest, because that will help you.
So, yeah, for everybody, really. Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, what I'll do is I will wrap up and say thank you.